Get ready to hear the truth about America on a show that's not immune to the facts with your host, Dan Bongino.
All right, welcome to the Dan Bongino Show. Producer Joe, how are you? Producer Joe will be joining us shortly. If you listen to the audio podcast for the first time ever, the versions will be a little different. Producer Joe is on the audio podcast. However, we had a major internet meltdown where I'm located here. So due to technical difficulties, the beginning of this show today will be a little different. Let me get right to it, folks. I'm going to stack show for you today. This first story, I promise you, is going to blow your mind. The Mike Flynn saga, which we've been quiet on for a little while, has blown up yesterday. I kid you not, has actually blown up. It is a devastating indictment of the government's effort to target a genuine military hero in Flynn, and it's all coming out right now, the dirty laundry for you all to see. All right, let's get right to it. Today's show brought to you by our buddies at Stamps.com. Stamps.com. We would be lost without Stamps.com in the Bongino household. Why? Because I don't want to sit on long lines at the post office, fight for parking. I don't want to have to drive there. With Stamps.com, you print the postage in your house, you give it to the mail carrier, you're good to go. Works for any letter. This is any package, any class of mail. This is super convenient. Stamps.com. No one likes going to the post office. You're busy. Who's got the time for all that traffic and parking problems? Why do you need Stamps.com? Because it's a popular time-saving tool for small businesses. That's why it eliminates trips to the post office and saves you money. Simply use your computer to print official U.S. postage 24/7 for any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere you want to send it. Once your mail is ready, hand it to the mail carrier who's better than you. Drop it off in the mailbox. It's that simple. With Stamps.com, you get 5 cents off every first-class stamp and up to 40% off priority mail. Who's better than you? Not to mention it's a fraction of the cost of those expensive postage meters. Stamps.com is a no-brainer, saves you time, saves you money. It's no wonder 700,000 small businesses already use Stamps.com. Right now, my listeners get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. Here's what you do. Go to Stamps.com. There's a little microphone up there at the top of the homepage at Stamps.com. Just click it. Type in Dan and get your discount. That's Stamps.com. Enter Dan. Stamps.com. Enter Dan for your 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. All right, let's go. It's the Mike Flynn story. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you the headline first. Mike Flynn, Lieutenant General Mike Flynn, who was Donald Trump's national security advisor before he was targeted by the FBI. The deep state isn't real. No, it's very real, sadly. I wish it were a conspiracy theory. It's not. Before he was targeted, deep state actors who targeted Mike Flynn targeted him and set him up. And now we have strong evidence that what I've been telling you for a long time is true. Now, I'm going to play a clip for you last night from Sean Hannity's Fox News show. Sarah Carter was on. I have her article, by the way, about this at sarahcarter.com, up at Bongino.com. There it is right there. Judge slams government argument that Mike Flynn is a co-conspirator in former partners trial by Sarah Carter, July 10, 2019. It'll be up in the show notes at Bongino.com. Subscribe to my email list. I'll send them all to you. It's a great piece. It's worth your time. Sarah was on Hannity's show last night. And she said there's something very suspicious about a filing Mike Flynn. It was demanded he make this filing. There's something very suspicious about it. Let me give you a quick backstory. I'll play the cut and then I'll explain it. The story's going to be a little bit confusing, but I promise you, this is absolutely worth your time. Here's the gist of it. Mike Flynn is currently being prosecuted for 2 separate BS cases, federal cases, by the anti-Trump Mueller team and other people in the deep state who can't stand Mike Flynn and want to make sure he stays quiet about everything. The first case is the case we've talked about. Mike Flynn had a conversation with the Russian ambassador during the transition period with the Trump team. The contents of that conversation he was asked about in an FBI interview. The contents weren't relayed exactly to the FBI agents. The FBI agents, despite telling Jim Comey, the FBI director, they didn't think Flynn was lying about his retelling of the conversation, charged him with lying anyway because they wanted Mike Flynn silenced. Why? Because Mike Flynn was an opponent of the Obama administration as far back as 2015. There were deep state efforts against Mike Flynn to keep him quiet. There's another case. This is important. This is critical. There is another case against Mike Flynn. That in that case, Mike Flynn is being used as a witness against his business partners. The allegation there is that Mike Flynn and his business partners were lobbying on behalf of a company tied to the Turkish government, and that Mike Flynn and his business partners did not file the appropriate paperwork there. You're supposed to register under FARA, Foreign Agency Registration Act. This is a crime almost never, ever prosecuted, by the way. But in the case of people aligned with Trump, of course, the government has to go after them because that's what they do. This is Third World Republic type stuff. The allegations in that case are that they did not file the proper paperwork and that who they were lobbying for was connected to the Turkish government. You tracking me? How are these two cases connected? This is important, critical information here, because in order to get off on the sentencing part for the lying to the FBI case, where the government's alleging Mike Flynn lied, even though he didn't, right? They're saying, hey, your cooperation in the other case is going to count. You tracking me? In other words, you cooperate against your business partner and we'll let you off easy on this lying case. That's how the two cases are connected, even though they're separate cases. The government now all of a sudden has changed their mind on the FARA case and said, no, Mike Flynn's no longer a cooperator. He's a co-conspirator. Co-conspirator? How did he turn into a co-conspirator from a cooperator? Listen to this cut by Sarah Carter, where she explains how there's something very fishy about the forms they made Mike Flynn fill out about doing that lobbying for that company connected to the Turkish government. I'll explain when we come back.
And one very important point about this, Sean, that a lot of people don't understand is that normally FARAs aren't prosecuted. You're right. But more than that is that when they receive, example, an issue from the FARA office, to file a FARA, it's very simple. It's very easy to fill out. According to sources that I've spoken to, Flynn's FARA was so extraordinarily complicated. It was almost as if they had crafted the FARA to try to corner him into making a statement that wouldn't be correct. So that's something that they're looking into as well. Now, the judge has not decided yet whether or not to allow the government to call him a co-conspirator. So this still hasn't been decided. It's expected to be decided soon.
All right, Sarah Carter, investigative reporter, great work tonight. And we are hoping that General Flynn gets justice.
Ladies and gentlemen, wait. You understand what you just heard? This endless witch hunt of Mike Flynn is one of the most grotesque, disgusting examples of government overreach and prosecutorial malfeasance, lying and garbage, steaming hot piles of dog manure in a bag on fire on your front porch that I've ever seen in my life. Flynn, here's the story here. Here's what Sarah Carter's talking about. And I'm getting a lot of this from a good source of mine. Hat tip, you know who you are. Mike Flynn, during the transition period, is approached about some lobbying he did for a company. That private company was apparently, according to some of these allegations, connected to the Turkish government. The extent of those connections to the Turkish government, please track me here, Mike Flynn is not aware of. Flynn does not understand how this private company is alleged to be tied to the Turkish government, okay? He thinks he's doing some perfectly legal lobbying for this private company that's tied to the foreign government. He doesn't understand how deep these ties are the government's alleging them to be. The government, however, apparently knows this. The government knows that the company Flynn is lobbying for has connections, in fact, to the Turkish government. How would the government know that? So the government goes to Mike Flynn. He's now the national security advisor during the incoming Trump administration. And he says, the appointed national security advisor, the government, this attorney David Laufman, who's connected to just about everybody and their mother, apparently, on the Democrat side, this attorney for the government, this guy Laufman, says to Flynn, hey, listen, you need to go back now and file these forms registering as a foreign lobbyist, basically under FARA. Flynn's probably thinking, why? I was only lobbying for a foreign company, not a foreign company connected to the government. As Sarah Carter just said, when he goes to the FARA office, and keep in mind, Flynn hires a very high-priced attorney to help him fill out this paperwork precisely as it's legally supposed to be filled out. He's not trying to do any shenanigans. He pays $170,000 to an attorney to fill this out. They go into the Farah office to fill it out. And as Sarah Carter said, all of a sudden, the form they're being presented with, which is usually super simple. Are you lobbying for a foreign government? Who? Okay, simple. Here you go. He gets this long, extensive form with these detailed questions almost designed to trip him up. Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to do that? They did it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm going to stand by this because I know Mike Flynn has been targeted as far back as 2015. Remember, he goes overseas. All of a sudden, he shows up at this location in London. Why we go at London again? People involved who know Christopher Steele show up at the meeting. Allegations back in 2015 start to surface that at this 2015 meeting, Mike Flynn had some inappropriate contact with a Russian woman, Svetlana Lakova, who could not deny this in stronger terms. Nobody else sees the conduct as inappropriate, by the way. It's just the anti-Trump people. Oh, by the way, they're the same anti-Trump people connected to Christopher Steele and connected to Stefan Halper, the same spy who spied on the Trump team during the summer of 2016. Same guy. What have I told you about Flynn? Flynn is the linchpin to Spygate because Spygate is more than just about Trump. It is about spying on Obama's enemies. Why was Flynn spied on as far back as 2015? Trump isn't even running yet. Because Flynn is an opponent of the Iran deal, Barack Obama's signature foreign policy disaster, what Barack Obama thinks is an achievement. Flynn is a vocal opponent. He needs to be taken out politically. His reputation needs to be ruined. Allegations surface. Mike Flynn has made some inappropriate contact with a Russian woman. Nonsense. But they don't have anything on Flynn. He's clean. This contract with this private company where he's doing some consulting work is not this deeply involved Turkish government operation the government knows about. But ask yourself, how does the government apparently know in advance about the extensive cooperation between a private company and the Turkish government that they're seemingly implying here, but Flynn doesn't? Ladies and gentlemen, because Flynn was being spied on the whole time. And I believe so was the company he was working for. In other words, the government presents him with a FARA form and has him sign a form that Flynn thinks he's being honest about, but the government already knows he's going to sign a false form and a false document. Why are they doing this now? Because Flynn's new attorney, Sidney Powell, and Flynn's legal team have finally given the double-barreled middle finger to the government and said, we are not signing this. What did they do? The government wants Flynn to sign a new form saying that the FARA registration, the complicated form they asked him to sign in February, they want him to say that what he said on that form is a lie. In other words, they want Flynn to admit he knew he was doing extensive lobbying for the Turkish government by proxy. And Flynn's now saying, I'm not going to sign that because it's not true. I may know that now because you told me, but I wasn't aware this company had extensive ties to the Turkish government. The government already knew in February because they were spying on Flynn. This guy's been set up the whole time. So now they're nailing him to the wall and saying, hey, we told you if you cooperated in this other case, we'd help you out in the Lion case. Forget about that. Deal's off. You're out. Now they're trying to declare Flynn a co-conspirator in this FARA case when Flynn had no idea the involvement of this company with, again, alleged to be tied to the Turkish government. He didn't know. He's not going to sign the form. Paula, is this making sense? Thank you. Here, now, just so you understand, I'm going to put up this the judge's words in a second. Big hat tip to @TechnoFog on Twitter. You're awesome. Great account. TechnoFog highlighted this legal document. Finally, this information surfaced yesterday from court filings on Flynn. Long and short of it is this stuff was sealed. It's now coming out. In order for the government to nail Flynn to the wall and say, okay, you were helping us out with this failure to register as a foreign lobbyist case against your business partner, right? Flynn was going to testify against his business partner, apparently. Flynn now says, no, I'm not signing that, though, that I knew that I'm not signing that form. The government now turns around and goes back to the judge and says, we want to declare Mike Flynn now as a co-conspirator, not a cooperator. The judge says this, check this out, basically nailing the government to the wall. from the court filings. The judge says, similarly, the Farah statement and related filings do not reflect the existence of the alleged conspiracy to act as undisclosed Turkish agents or to cause the filing of a false Farah statement. Oh, is this case on Mike Flynn falling apart quick? Make no mistake what's happening here. The judge just stuck his boot 25 feet up the caboose of the government, Mueller, anti-Trump, DOJ, anti-Trump hacks who are trying to target Mike Flynn again for a second crime he didn't commit, lying on a Farah form he wasn't lying on. He had an experienced lawyer help him fill it out. If a company he was working for had ties to the Turkish government Flynn didn't know about, then why didn't the government just tell him? Hey, buddy, we've been spying on you. That company, by the way, has some ties we think you should know about. Why not brief him? They didn't. They let him sign the form anyway, knowing he didn't know, and then trying to prosecute him for it. And then he said, no, we won't prosecute you as long as you testify against your buddy there, your business partner. But you have to sign this form first admitting you lied. I'm not signing that. Okay, now we're going to charge you as a co-conspirator. The judge just backslapped him and said there's no evidence of that he lied on that Farah form or that he was acting as an undisclosed Turkish agent. None. There's no evidence for that. Folks, the Flynn legal team has finally caught on here. They have finally caught on to the fact that Mike Flynn is being relentlessly persecuted by deep state actors who are desperate to shut this guy up. There is no evidence he lied to the FBI. Oh, he pled. He had a plea. He was threatened with bankruptcy. The FBI acknowledged he didn't lie about the Kislyak Russian conversation. Now, secondly, we find out the government's trying to flip the script on him and charge him as a co-conspirator in a case they've already acknowledged he was a cooperator on because he won't sign a form, a Farah form, as Sarah Carter said, the judge that they made it unnecessarily complex to trip him up, to entrap him again. Folks, Flynn's Farah filing was accurate according to what he knew at the time. That it was not accurate after the fact because the government disclosed to him information he didn't have is not a reason to go back and charge him with a crime. They are so desperate to shut up and silence Mike Flynn. It is disgusting what's going on here. Folks, please tell me you followed that. I don't want to recap it endlessly for you. And I know, I don't want to waste your time, but I just want you to understand Flynn was entrapped again. On the lying case to the FBI, they walked into the White House, literally, 2 FBI agents in a setup attempt. They already had the transcript about Flynn's phone call to the Russian ambassador. He already had it in front of them. They had it because they'd been spying on Flynn. They had the exact wording. When Flynn's retelling of the conversation didn't match the exact wording, they charged him with lying to the FBI, even though they acknowledged to their FBI director that they didn't think he was being dishonest. He was being set up. Finally, because they were spying on Flynn, they think they have a connection to the Turkish government and Flynn that Flynn doesn't know about. So they make him file a form. Hey, just acknowledge you were a lobbyist and sign this form. But Flynn doesn't know the information the government does. They then turn around and go, look, you signed this form, but in this form you didn't admit you worked for the Turkish government. He couldn't admit it. He didn't know. They set him up. Ugh. This should seriously tick you off. The guy was set up not once, but twice. Thank God the judge is having none of this. He's saying there's no evidence anything you're telling us about Flynn is true. None. All right, today's show also brought to you by my buddies at iTarget. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to own a firearm, safety and proficiency matter, and the iTarget Pro system is the single best way out there to improve your proficiency with a firearm. Listen, the range can get expensive. You have to drive there. You have to purchase the ammunition. You have to clean your firearm. The range may be far away. You can't get there every day. It's not convenient. My prior line of work, we used to fire our weapons every month because you have to maintain that proficiency. You have to work on your sight alignment, your sight picture, your grip. How can you do that if you can't get to the range once a week or once a month? I have the answer for you. iTargetPro.com. That's the letter iTargetPro.com. Use promo code Dan. You'll get 10% off. What's the iTarget Pro system? It is a laser round that goes into the firearm you have now. You have a 9mm, 38, you have an AR-15, 223, whatever it may be, they will send you a laser round. You don't have to make any manipulations to your firearm. You safely unload your weapon, check it twice, check it 3 times. You insert the laser round. It emits a laser onto a target. You can now, via phone app, see exactly where those rounds would have gone. It's like dry firing, except you see where the rounds would have gone on the target. The app will log it all for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I've had people send me pictures of their targets in a week. They clean up their firing like that. Their proficiency gets that much better. Ladies and gentlemen, proficiency matters. God forbid you have to use a firearm in a self-defense situation. You have to be precise. Precision matters. Save time, save money, take your firearms proficiency to the next level safely and effectively with the iTarget Pro system. I get reviews and emails about this. People love it. They can't put it down. Just drop that laser round, the firearm you have now, put the target right there wherever you want, and you can go all day. You don't have to clean your firearm. There's no shell casings, nothing. That's the letter I, itargetpro.com, 10% off plus free shipping with the offer code Dan. Go to itargetpro.com, promo code Dan, save 10%. Best system out there, hands down. Highly recommended. Go check it out. All right, let's get right back to it. Showing you again, the mainstream media has absolutely failed to do its job. They only do their job after the fact. I kind of teased this New York Times story, which is now, ironically, trying to get ahead of a story we put out 3 months ago or so. Folks, this is embarrassing, okay? New York Times has another article coming out, is out yesterday, talking about the credibility of steel. Here's what's going on here. The Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, who's looking into this whole abuse of the FISA process, we were just talking about the spying. Mm-hmm. We now know Bill Barr's looking into the spying on Mike Flynn and others. Fascinatingly, I put out a few months back that the problem with Steele's information was it was garbage, and one of the other problems with Steele's information, who was hired to put together the dossier, is he had already told in October, before they ever filed any of these FISA documents to spy on the Trump team, he had already told the State Department official, Kathleen Kavalek, that his sources were 2 Russian disinformation specialists. In other words, Steele was colluding with Russians to get information about Donald Trump. That's not in dispute. That's only in dispute amongst lunatic liberals who don't want to tell you the truth, right? The media, of course, misses that whole story. But I'd said to you months back that the problem with this is the FBI has located, or had located to be precise, in January of 2017, one of Steele's alleged Russian sources, right? And had interviewed that Russian source. Now, according to my sources, you know who you are, that interview, let's just say, Joe, did not go well. Matter of fact, it went very bad. B-A-D. B-A-D-D in Joe Biden spelling. Yeah. It did not go well. The Russian source was deemed to be untrustworthy and basically lying. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the problem here? Alarm bells should be going off everywhere. Not only does Christopher Steele tell a United States government State Department official before the FBI ever uses his information in the courts that he's getting it from Russian disinformation specialists before the first FISA is signed in October, but when the FISA warrant to spy on the Trump team is renewed in January and twice more into the summer of 2017, the FBI, ladies and gentlemen, has already interviewed one of Steele's Russian sources and found it out, his information, to be extensive garbage, to quote Marv Albert from the old Knick games. We're in extensive garbage time. Yes, you are. Now, the New York Times, again, after we've already reported this stuff, so is like Chuck Ross and everyone else out there who's done the work on this case, we've already reported the FBI interviewed this Russian source that was given information from Steele and thought it was garbage. Not only that, my sources are telling me Jim Comey knew darn well that those Russian sources were garbage and kept reauthorizing the warrants to spy on the Trump team anyway. Comey knew. Why is the New York Times reporting this now? As we can see, let me read this to you. This is fascinating. From the New York Times yesterday. Moreover, by January of 2017, FBI agents had tracked down and interviewed one of Mr. Steele's main sources, a Russian speaker from a former Soviet republic who'd spent time in the West, according to a DOJ document obtained by the New York Times and people familiar with the event. Listen to this. You want to talk about putting lipstick on a pig. What a shine job on your shoes this is. Check this out, Joe. After questioning him, the Russians, again, what we already reported on, FBI officials came to suspect that the man might have added his own interpretations to reports from his own sources that he passed on to Mr. Steele, calling into question the reliability of the information. Oh, isn't that great? Isn't that spectacular? So basically, what are they saying, Joe? The FBI knew Steele's Russian sources were crap. They were that when you put crap in a bag and you light it on fire and you throw it on someone's stoop. Not that I've ever done that. And someone goes out and smashes it. That's what's happening. The New York Times, now in their endless Pravda propaganda role, what are they doing, Joe? They're trying to get out ahead of the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz's report, which is probably going to have this information in there. The Inspector General's report is going to be devastating. And you know what it's going to say in Inspector Generalese? The Bureau knew these Russian sources were crap and spied on Trump anyway. So what does the Times do? They want to paint the story first. It's like watercolors. Bob Ross, look, there's a pretty little tree. Look, put a little waterfall. Yeah. Look at this. Remember Bob Ross? I used to love Bob Ross. Very relaxing.
I feel better already.
Of course, they want New York Times, Joe, wants you to feel better about a prolific government spying operation on Mike Flynn and Donald Trump using crap, garbage Russian sources the government knew were garbage because they interviewed them. Why do you think Comey? That's right. Yes. Why do you think Comey's freaking out? Why do you think the FBI? And listen to this. The New York Times. I love this. That he may have added his own interpretations to reports, calling into question his reliability. In other words, he lied. The Russian source Steele was using. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bureau already knows this. This is the New York Times doing damage control. That's all this is. Instead of just coming out, headline, FBI used discredited Russian source to spy on the Trump team, colluding with the foreigner in Christopher Steele. That's the headline. What do? They bury this little nugget halfway down and say, well, he may have added his own interpretations to the information. Bull. No bull. Right. Speaking of which, we have a new sponsor I want to welcome on board. Our buddies at, see my t-shirt? No Bull.
No Bull.
No, let me show you my sneakers from No Bull. Hold on. These are my actual sneakers. You can see by the bottom, they're all dirty because I've been working out. No Bull. These are the finest footwear and workout attire you will find anywhere. I cannot attest to the quality of this stuff in strong enough terms. No Bull. No more Bull. Go pick up a pair of these suckers today. They are absolutely fantastic. Matter of fact, I kid you not, I read this website, T Nation, once in a while. It's pretty good. They have some pretty good workout routines. A little hardcore, but they have good workout routines. They had Stuff We Like Part 1. What was in there? No Bull workout attire and sneakers. They're that good. I love No Bull. Listen, it's time to demand more from your workout gear the way you demand more from yourself. No Bull is a footwear, apparel, and accessory brand, for people who train hard and don't believe in excuses. They're on a mission, No Bull, to create products for people who train hard day after day. Love this stuff. It's good for me on the elliptical, good when I deadlift, good when I squat, good when I lift, good when I run. Love it. Wear and tear is welcome. No Bull has you covered. This t-shirt is so light, I can't even tell you. Look at that. Look at that. Check that out. That's how light. This thing is so airy. You get in there, the sweat evaporates immediately. They love wearing it, okay? Yeah. No Bull. Very nice. Don't let the simple design fool you. No Bull gear is built to perform. You a CrossFitter, MMA, workout, recreational, runner, whatever it is. Cross trainer, get No Bull attire. It's the best. The only thing that'll make you fitter is you, working hard day after day. No Bull training gear is designed just for that. Products that perform for you when you need them. It's a multi-environment design built for wherever your workout takes you. Cold, hot, warm, cool, doesn't matter. Extremely durable, breathable, abrasion-resistant material. It's for runners, for workout, CrossFit, MMA. You're going to love this stuff. If you're ready to change the way you work out, change the gear, challenge yourself, go to nobullproject.com/Bongino. Put in the work day after day. If you do it, this is for you. If you're working out hard, this is for you. NoBullProject.com/Bongino. Check out their training gear. No Bull. NoBullProject.com/Bongino. NoBullProject.com/Bongino. You're not going to find better workout attire anywhere. Okay, moving on. Let me just backtrack a bit where we've been. To be candid with you, we had a bunch of technical issues today. I'm very sorry for it, but I always break the fourth wall. It's the first time it's ever happened. So if the show is a little late and it appears a little bit choppy, my sincere apologies. We never skip shows, and we had like a major league blowout technical meltdown on the show today. But Paula and Joe fixed it because they're very good. But let me just recap where we were for the sake of continuity. So in the beginning, the takeaway from the Mike Flynn case, the government was spying on Mike Flynn. The government likely knew Mike Flynn's relationship to the Turks was a little more detailed than even Mike Flynn knew. How did the government know Mike Flynn was working for the Turks? Because they were spying on him, even though Mike Flynn didn't know. And they made him sign a document anyway to stick it to Flynn because he was an enemy of the Obama team. That's the takeaway. The government knew more than Flynn did and made him sign the thing anyway. Secondly, the New York Times is finally getting ahead of a story we already reported. The fact that they interviewed these Russian sources and they were garbage and the government used the information anyway. Okay, moving on. Cocaine Mitch strikes again. Mitch McConnell. Listen, I get it. Mitch has his good and his bad moments, but I got to tell you, lately, Cocaine Mitch has been doubling down. That's his nickname, by the way, from Don Blankenship, who ran for Senate in West Virginia. For those of you who missed that, I'm not alleging Mitch McConnell uses cocaine, but it was a nickname they gave him. But Cocaine Mitch is back. So he's asked at a presser up there on Capitol Hill. Now that the New York Times, as we covered, or not the New York Times, media, I forget who covered it. NBC News it was, I'm sorry. That NBC News, Joe, broke the story, dreaded air quotes, that McConnell's ancestors may have owned slaves, which has nothing to do with McConnell. He's not responsible for the behavior of anyone else other than Mitch McConnell, no less his ancestors. So this entrepreneurial news outlet decides they're going to nail him down on Capitol Hill and say, hey, listen, I know you don't support reparations, payments made to descendants of slaves as a policy, which is an awful policy, by the way. I know you don't support that, but is your mind going to change now that we know your ancestors owned slaves? Listen to Cocaine Mitch in an absolute gut shot, kidney shot, liver shot, between the legs kick. I'm not really sure what to call it. Check this out.
Were you aware that your great-great-grandfathers were slave owners in Alabama before the Civil War, and has that revelation caused you to change your position on reparations?
I find myself once again in the same position as President Obama. We both oppose reparations, and we both are the descendants of slaveholders.
Yeah, boy! Mitch! Flavor.
That reporter must be sitting there like, what just happened? How did I just get so destroyed on, was that C-SPAN or whatever it is? How did I just get so wrecked with one question? Wrecked. R-E-K-T. Twitter wrecked. That's the kids use that for wrecked. Getting this. R-E-K-T. I spelled it wrong on purpose. Totally, completely wrecked. Mitch McConnell. That is the exact same position. He's not kidding. That Barack Obama finds himself in. Also, Kamala Harris, presidential candidate, who there's some allegations surfacing now that her ancestors owned slaves too. Let me be crystal clear. I am absolutely morally and ethically consistent on this. I don't hold Barack Obama as responsible for his ancestors' issues, nor Kamala Harris, nor Mitch McConnell. The media, remember what I said to you on yesterday's show when we discussed this topic at length? You better be darn careful opening up this Pandora's box. You may not like what you find if we're going to start going back through the lineage and generations to figure out what people in our past did and hold us responsible for it. Good job by Mitch McConnell holding the press accountable. I mean, is Obama going to get the same questions? Of course not. He's a Democrat. Yeah, I mean, really, he has been really fired up lately, Mitch McConnell. All right, moving on. This is a story I heard last night on Martha McCallum's show on Fox, and it really kind of stung me a little bit in a good way. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this is not an issue that polls well with a lot of Americans. Candidly, I know for conservative content, It's an issue not a lot of people talk about, but we should. The issue of school choice, the fact that low-income folks in some inner cities, a lot of minority students, people in mountainous regions of the United States, areas where the education system may be struggling a bit, the fact that they have no way out and have no access to the American dream that I've had, that Joe has had, that Paul has had, has always disturbed me. Again, I know school choice, it's not one of those things like, you know, we're at the ramparts and we're ready to like knock down the Democrat wall over. Ladies and gentlemen, it should be. And the reason this story should be preeminent in our conservative thinking is I'm convinced the radical left, not all Democrats, but the radical left wants a poor, struggling underclass. They need them because they need votes and they need government programs to attempt to buy people off. Ladies and gentlemen, with an improved, vibrant, strong education system that gives people access out of poverty into the American dream you and I have, the Democrats and their radical left are not going to be able to parasitically feed off an underclass of folks that remain poor. I'm telling you, the key to long-term economic prosperity, foundational liberty and freedom with strong roots feeding off that water in the ground, the key to that ground of liberty, is an education system. And our education system has failed these kids. It has left them behind. It is the civil rights issue of our time. It is a human catastrophe what is happening to these inner city kids and these other kids in struggling school districts. Getting to the point, I saw this story on Martha McCallum last night. Here's the story in the New York Post. I can't encourage you in strong enough terms to read this in the show notes today. New York Post story about this Bronx charter school. In this Bronx charter school, where 90% of the kids in the school qualify for subsidized meals, lunches, and breakfast. And what does that mean, Joe? In other words, it means this Bronx school has a lot of lower income kids. This is not some wealthy area.
Right.
There is a charter school. A school that operates outside of the traditional public school system in some respects, where parents can choose to send their kids there. They are not constrained by the government bureaucracy putting their boot on the necks of these kids and their parents and the teachers who want to teach these kids. This charter school did something amazing. They graduated 53 eighth graders. The entire eighth grade class of this teacher who was on Martha's show last night, every single one of her kids in this low-income area of the Bronx in this charter school, every single one aced the Algebra 1 Regents test. 5 out of 5.
All right.
Good for you. Good for you. Ladies and gentlemen, the only reason I'm here on this show today, with big news to come, with an audience as generous as you've been to me, you've made my life entirely different, given me a voice I never thought I'd had. The only reason any of this is happening is because my parents took me out of a struggling public school district in Glendale. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good. PS 68. I never went there. My mother didn't have any money. My dad was not wealthy either. But they managed to struggle and put together, make ends meet, and to put me into St. Pancras School, a local Catholic school, which is now unfortunately out of business. I'm telling you, it's the only reason I am here today speaking to you in coherent sentences. Because my parents, despite their economic struggles, were able to get us into this school. Me and my brothers. Why don't these kids get the same shot? Why are these Democrat liberal politicians standing there with a stop sign in front of minority parents, parents of white students, Asian students, and others in struggling areas who just want the same opportunity for their kids? Now, to show you the disparity in this, from the piece, folks, in the other public schools in the same area, keep in mind what I just told you. 100 with 2 zeros, 100% of this Bronx charter schools 100%, 53 out of 53, got a perfect 5 out of 5 on the Algebra 1 Regents test. In the surrounding public schools, only 34% even took the test. And of those 34%, 82% managed to get a 3 out of 5. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not talking about small differences here. We're talking about a Grand Canyon-like chasm between kids who nailed it, who are now going to go on to elite colleges, get fine educations, enabling them and their kids and generations of their children to prosper. To prosper in the American dream. And we are talking about other kids in public schools who will be entirely left behind. They will not have access to the dream you and I have. You know, I implore, I'm begging I'm begging, if you're a Democrat listening to my show, why are you accepting the teachers' unions' talking points? Not the teachers, the unions, the interest groups. Why? Just give the parents a choice. If the charter school stinks, the parents will pull them out. Just let them pick. Folks, my life, my kid's life, I would never even met my wife, so it wouldn't have mattered. I'd say my wife's life, but we wouldn't even know each other. I would never have met Joe because I never would have lived in Maryland, because I never would have had the qualifications to become a Secret Service agent or a candidate for office because of school choice. This issue matters, folks. It's why I talk about it whenever I see a story like that. Martha McCallum had the teacher on last night. God bless you. I don't know your politics. I don't care. God bless you. You have my sincere thanks for changing the lives of 53 out of 53 kids who likely will now go on to successful, prosperous careers, despite coming from a crap school district in the Bronx, because you did it. You changed their lives. God bless you. You have done an amazing, I'm in awe of what you did. That's a great story.
Yeah, man.
Okay. All right, last read of the day, our last sponsor, but another great company. Ladies and gentlemen, Bravo Company Manufacturing. Are you in the market? Are you in the market for a rifle or a pistol? This is the finest company out there. If you are in the market, please check them out at BravoCompanyMFG.com. BravoCompanyMFG.com. Please check this company out. They make life-saving equipment. They make it right here in Heartland, Wisconsin. They build their equipment to a life-saving standard. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a sporting arms company. If you're in the market for a precision, accurate, no-fail rifle here. I have 2 of them. They are absolutely fantastic. They are precise. They fire on point. I've had no errors with them at all, no malfunctions. These are great quality, precision-built equipment built to a life-saving standard. This is not a sporting arms company. If you're looking for sporting arms, you have to go elsewhere. When BravoCompanyMFG.com, Bravo Company, when they make their rifles, they make them to a life-saving standard. They do it assuming that equipment is going to wind up in the hands of a law enforcement officer, one of our military soldiers or officers, or a civilian who, God forbid, is engaged in a scenario where he has to save the life of himself or someone else. They are not building sporting arms here. They build precision, fine equipment. These rifles are fantastic. I tell the story all the time. I went to my local FFL to pick up my rifle. This guy was more than experienced with them. He said, "You have no idea how great these products are." Bravo Company rifles and pistols. They are the finest on the market. You'll see me wearing their t-shirts sometime. I'm proud to. I love their company. I love their products. If you're in the market for a rifle or pistol, please go to BravoCompanyMFG.com. They put people before their products. They feel it's their moral responsibility to provide these people with life-saving equipment if you're in the market. To learn more about Bravo Company Manufacturing, head on over to BravoCompanyMFG.com. That's BravoCompanyMFG.com. Learn more about their products, special offers, and upcoming news. That's BravoCompanyMFG.com. You can also check out their YouTube channel at YouTube.com/BravoCompanyUFC. Bravo Company USA. Gosh, I got the UFC on my mind. YouTube.com/Bravo Company USA. Okay. There's an interesting story about Trump's new pick for the Fed. You know, I really have issues with our monetary policy. The Fed, we print money, quantitative easing. I've talked about it a lot on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, the media is kind of losing their minds a little bit. Story up by CBS News about one of Trump's recent picks, a lady by the name of Judy Shelton. A lot of Judys today. Judy was an Audience Archives. That's my mom's name too, Judy. Judy Shelton. The media is freaking out because Judy Shelton has spoken in the past positively about the gold standard. Oh gosh, liberals hear the gold standard and they freak out. I want to explain to you what the gold standard is, why it matters, and I got one more story for the day before we leave about New Zealand's catastrophic gun control fail, which is not working out like they thought. But this story is important. The gold standard matters. The gold standard matters because, ladies and gentlemen, think about what money is. What does money do for us, right? Money's a store of value. It's a measure of value. I always jokingly say, when I pay Joe for services he provides to my company, I don't pay him in refrigerators. I don't pay him in remote controls or watches. I pay my nice Vincere watch. I don't pay Joe in that. I pay Joe in money. It's a measure of his value we can both agree on. Now, as a measuring tool of value, Joe will pay you this per hour for this kind of service. Joe provides some editing and also obviously some content on the show. This is what I pay Joe. We both agree on that price. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the key to having money as a measure of value is that the measure is consistent. We use it as a measure of value because it's convenient. I don't pay Joe in watches or remote controls because it's inconvenient. Joe would then go have to find someone who needs 5 or 6 watches. He only needs one. Trade those for another service. Joe says, hey, I need steak tonight for dinner. Will you take my 3 watches for a steak? That's not the way an economy works in a non-barter system. You need some representation of value that is not a physical commodity.
Right.
We don't trade in refrigerators. Joe, I'll give you my refrigerator for 4 hours of editing on my show. Joe would be like, what? Why would I do that? It's not convenient. So we use money. Now, the left has a tough time with these simple concepts. The problem with using money, ladies and gentlemen, is there's not a tangible value to it if the measure is all over the place. Joe knows whether refrigerator's worth to him. If he's starving to death because his food is going bad, it's worth a whole lot. The problem with the gold standard for the left, where the US dollar would be anchored to a standard in gold, is the left hates this idea, Joe. And why? Because it takes away their ability. This is why they're freaking out over Trump's new pick, by the way, Judy Shelton. She's spoken positively about the gold standard. To spend us into oblivion. The left loves the idea of our money not being anchored to anything. So the way, say, a more primitive gold standard would work, Joe, is we would only be able to create new money based on the availability of gold, and the availability of that gold would be exchangeable. In other words, you can walk in with a dollar, a US dollar, and say, all right, well, this isn't a more, again, primitive gold standard. Let's call it a hard gold standard. Joe would be able to walk into a bank and say, I want to exchange my US dollar, redeemable in gold, for, I don't know, whatever it may be, a nail clipper worth of gold. Wouldn't even be worth that. If you had $1,000, technically you could walk into a bank and get your money back in gold. That would be a hard gold standard, right? That's not really the way the gold standard would work in a modern economy, but that simple analogy explains the point that it would do what, Joe? It would constrain the government's ability, or the Federal Reserve. It's not really a government entity. We all know what kind of it is. But the Federal Reserve could not create new money unless they found new gold, which would limit their ability to print new dollars. Why do the Democrats hate this, and why are they panicking about Judy Shelton and the media people? Because, folks, the Democrats want to monetize our debt. They want to spend us into oblivion like they're doing now with their $22 trillion of accumulated government debt. They want to spend us into the phantom zone. And the way they know we can never pay this off. We're not going to be able to pay off this debt. So the Democrats and the liberals want to be able to print money. They call this modern monetary theory. I call it steaming piles of hot garbage, just like the Flynn case, right? They want the Federal Reserve to be able to endlessly print new money, not constrained by a gold standard, to pay off our old debt. Now, if you're listening and you don't understand, you're like, Joe's probably like, oh, what's the problem? That sounds great. So the government can spend money on social programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, S-chip, food stamps, endless government pork projects, and basically we can print money. What's the problem, Dan? The problem, ladies and gentlemen, is if you can endlessly print new money because you're not constrained by any kind of a gold standard and your measure of money keeps going all over the place, right? Money buys this, money buys this, money buys this, money buys this. Why? Because it's more money chasing the same products, which requires the price to go up, which means the value of your money goes down if the price goes up. If you have $1 and it bought you 4 gumballs in one day, and then inflation goes through the roof, that dollar only buys you 1 gumball a week later. Meaning your dollar goes down and down and down and down and down. You can't do that with the gold standard because you can only print what you have in gold and people can redeem it. The Democrats would not be able to monetize the debt. What I mean by that is they're hoping to print money to pay off the debt, which will devalue the dollar, and make the debt worth less. Now, that works great for profligate governments. Think about it. If your dollar buys less and less and less because it's worth less, your dollar buys 4 gumballs, 3 gumballs, 2 gumballs, 1 gumball, a half a gumball, no gumballs. Now you need $10 to buy a gumball. That's inflation. The price of the gumballs goes up, your dollar buys less. That works great for government. Why? Think it through. Why are they freaking out over Judy Shelton? Because if your dollar's worth less, so's a dollar of government debt. In other words, if you owe $22 trillion, that $22 trillion that could have bought, 22 trillion gumballs, now you only need 4 or 5 gumballs because the 22 trillion's worthless. That debt is worth less too. Inflation's the government's best friend. Think about it. Let me make it simple for you. And I've used this analogy for you way old listeners, right? I know it's a little complicated, but think about it. If you are a debtor, not a creditor, you owe money to people, like the government owes to people who they borrowed money from. They borrowed money, bonds, they borrowed money from foreign governments, they borrowed money from us, if you have U.S. securities. If you owe money, you want inflation. If I owe, let me give you an example, Joe. Do you want to buy your house at the $30,000 purchase price your house, Joe, cost in 1970, or the $300,000 purchase price you bought it now? Which one? Not a trick question.
We'll go with 30,000.
We'll go with 30,000. But Joe, your house in 1970 wasn't worth the 30,000 of today. It was probably worth closer to 250,000. It's inflation wore away the value of the dollar. Therefore, you need more dollars to buy the same house. But the nice part about buying that house in 1970 at 30,000, you owed money, Joe. You still owe that same 30,000. So the value of your debt goes down too.
Right.
If you owe money, you love inflation. It deflates the value of your debt. You think this is great. The government, the U.S. government owes more money than anybody in the universe. They don't want the government to not be able to wipe out the value of the dollar. The Democrats and some Republicans, to be fair, love this idea of no gold standard. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a debtor and you spend your way into Hades by borrowing and spending money you don't have, you love inflation. The problem is if you're a saver, all that $30,000 you saved is now worthless because of government inflation crushing the value of every dollar you have. We conservatives are savers. The government is not. That's why this is going on right now, the freak out over Judy Shelton. All right, one last story up at the Daily Wire. Great story about New Zealand, business by Ash Shao. It'll be in the show notes today as well. New Zealand, after that horrible shooting in Christchurch, instituted, again, a really misguided policy banning, quote, military-style semi-automatic weapons. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've told you over and over, a gun ban after a crime will do nothing. Criminals don't care about your gun laws. That's why they're criminals. Criminals are not going to turn in their firearms. When you institute a gun ban like they did in Australia, the only people turning in the guns are going to be the law-abiding, not the criminals. A gun ban is nonsense. Well, New Zealanders apparently caught on to this, and this is an interesting story from the Daily Wire. Joe, there are 1.5 million firearms in New Zealand. How many do you think were turned in after the gun ban? Well, you'd say, well, if it's a gun ban, Joe, 1.5 million, not all of them, to be fair, were subject to the ban. Some may have been, single shot rifles or whatever. But let's just say it was 500,000, 200,000 that were subject to this new ban. How many do you figure were turned in of those 1.5 million? Take a stab at it, Joe. Give me a number. Just throw something.
I don't know. 10%. Yeah.
That's funny. I know you were joking, but it's fun. 700. So basically, New Zealanders are saying, yeah, thanks for the gun ban. Have a nice day. Ladies and gentlemen, This is not going to... Yeah, because they've already caught on. New Zealanders probably know what happened in Australia. It's their neighbor right there. Yeah. And said, listen, this is just dumb. I'm not turning in my firearm. What are you going to do? Serve a search warrant in my house? You criminals aren't going to turn in their guns. I'm not turning mine in either. Ladies and gentlemen, epic fail. It's not going to work. This is a dopey policy. It'll have the exact opposite effect you intended. All right, folks, thanks again for tuning in. Again, I'm sorry for some of the tech issues today, but this is the first time we ever had a massive technical meltdown, but we always get you a show. I love this show today. Please share it. I love you Redditors out there. Put my show on Reddit. You talk about it. Thank you very much. Please subscribe at youtube.com/Bongino. It's all free to the video show. Also, if you subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, it's free, and we really appreciate it. It helps us move up the charts. Thanks a lot, folks. I'll see you all tomorrow. All right, today's show is brought to you by our buddies at Brickhouse Nutrition. They make one of the finest nutrition supplements out there. Hey, here it is. Field of Greens. Field of Greens. Now, you'll notice that's empty. Why is that empty? Just like my bottle of Foundation, their other great product. I use this. This is the finest fruit and vegetable supplement out there. This is real food, Field of Greens. This is not cheap extract. This is real ground up, healthy fruits and vegetables, the key to a long, great, healthy life. Your cognitive abilities look better, feel better, perform better. Field of Greens, it's your fruit and vegetable insurance. I love it. Use the product twice a day. It tastes great. This is real, healthy, high-quality fruits and vegetables. Think of it as your fruit and vegetable insurance for a long and healthy life. Go to brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Pick up a jar of Field of Greens. This is empty. I need some more because we use it, me and my wife too. Field of Greens, available at brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. That's brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Pick it up today.
You just heard The Dan Bongino Show. You can also get Dan's podcasts on iTunes or SoundCloud. And follow Dan on Twitter 24/7 at DBongino.